The phone call came on a Tuesday morning. I was in my office at the Alzheimer's Research Institute, halfway through a stack of grant applications, when my phone buzzed. The rain was tapping against the window, and I had a cup of cold coffee next to my elbow. I was tired. We had been running a new set of clinical trials, and sleep had become a luxury. But the work was worth it. Every small breakthrough meant more time for families, more memories preserved, more hope. Then I saw the caller ID. Dad. Rachel, we need to talk about the wedding. It was my father. His voice had that formal, uncomfortable tone, the one he always used when delivering bad news he had already decided was final. I knew that tone. I had heard it the day he told me my mother's condition had worsened. I had heard it when he said he was selling the house. And now I was hearing it again. Okay, I said, putting down my pen. What about it? Margaret's family will be there. The Hendersons. Very prominent philanthropists. Major donors to medical research. They move in elite circles. I know who they are, Dad. Then you understand why this needs to go perfectly. I'm not sure what you're getting at. He cleared his throat. I could picture him in his living room, standing by the fireplace, wearing one of his expensive sweaters. He always rehearsed his difficult conversations. This one had clearly been rehearsed. Rachel, I think it's best if you don't attend the wedding. Silence. I actually couldn't process his words for a moment. The rain kept tapping against the window. The clock on my wall kept ticking. But inside my chest, something cold and familiar began to spread. I'm sorry, what? It's nothing personal. Margaret's family are sophisticated people. Wealthy, connected. They're funding several major initiatives across the country. I can't risk anything going wrong. And me attending your wedding would make something go wrong? He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. You know how you can be. Awkward around wealthy people. You never know what to say at these events. You dress like you're going to a lab, not a social function. Margaret's family will have expectations. Certain standards. I leaned back in my chair and looked at the wall behind my desk. Diplomas from Johns Hopkins. Harvard Medical School. A PhD in neuroscience. Awards from the National Institutes of Health, the American Medical Association, the Alzheimer's Association. Photos with senators, Nobel laureates, and yes, philanthropists. Including the Hendersons. Including Charles Henderson himself, shaking my hand at a gala 2 years ago. Dad, I've met the Hendersons. I doubt that. I have dinner with Charles Henderson quarterly. His foundation funds my research. Silence on his end. Long, stretching silence. I could hear him breathing. What research? He finally asked. The Alzheimer's research I've been doing for 12 years. The research I've told you about at every family gathering. The research that's in clinical trials right now. The research that was just featured on 60 Minutes last month. You work at a university. Teaching. I run the Alzheimer's Research Institute. We have a $620 million operating budget. The Henderson Foundation provides $80 million of that annually. Charles Henderson sits on my advisory board. We had dinner 3 weeks ago. He asked about you, actually. I told him you were well. More silence. Then, that's not possible. It's very possible. In fact, I have a meeting with Charles on Thursday to discuss expanding our partnership. But apparently, I'm too awkward to attend your wedding to his daughter. Margaret is Charles Henderson's daughter? Stunned disbelief. I could hear him sinking into a chair. The leather creaked. The Margaret Henderson you've been dating for 6 months. Daughter of Charles and Patricia Henderson. The same Hendersons who fund my Alzheimer's research, my clinical trials, and my neuroscience lab. The same Hendersons who have personally invested over $400 million in my work. He didn't speak for a long moment. I let the silence sit. Let him feel it. Why didn't you tell me? He finally whispered. I did tell you. Multiple times. Every Thanksgiving. Every Christmas. Every phone call. You said, that's nice, and changed the subject to talk about the golf club you joined or the car you bought or the new restaurant you tried. But you never said you knew the Hendersons specifically. Because you never asked, Dad. You decided I was an awkward professor who embarrassed you at social events. You decided I was someone to hide. So you uninvited me to your own wedding. Rachel, I didn't know. Yes, that's the problem. You didn't know. You didn't ask. You assumed. You assumed I was still the same awkward teenager who didn't know how to talk to people. You assumed my life was small and unimportant. And now you're marrying into a family that has personally invested hundreds of millions of dollars in my work. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, exactly. From exhaustion. From 43 years of being unseen. My assistant, Dr. Sarah Kim, knocked on my door. She was holding a stack of patient files and a concerned expression. Everything okay? You sounded upset. My father just uninvited me to his wedding because he's afraid I'll embarrass him in front of the bride's family, who happened to fund our entire research program. Sarah's eyes went wide. She set down the files and closed the door behind her. Wait, your dad is marrying Margaret Henderson. The Margaret Henderson. The Margaret Henderson whose family foundation just wrote us an $80 million check? That Margaret Henderson. Sarah leaned against the wall. Does he know you work with her family? He does now. Sarah started laughing. Not a small laugh. A full, disbelieving, what is life laugh. Oh my God. This is incredible. What are you going to do? Go to the wedding. But he uninvited you. And I'm uninviting myself. Charles Henderson would be devastated if he knew I was excluded from his daughter's wedding, especially since he considers me family. He calls me his honorary daughter, Sarah. He introduced me to the board last year as the most important person in the room. And my father thinks I'm an embarrassment. Sarah grinned. This is going to be spectacular. That's one word for it. Here's the thing about my family. I'm Dr. Rachel Thompson, 43 years old, and I've been invisible to them my entire life. Not invisible in the way that people don't see you. Invisible in the way that people look right at you and still don't see who you actually are. My father, Robert Thompson, is a retired insurance executive. He made good money, upper middle class, comfortable, proud of his country club membership and his luxury sedan. He liked things that fit into neat boxes. Success meant a corner office. Success meant a nice car. Success meant being invited to the right parties. My mother died when I was 16. Cancer. Fast and brutal. After that, it was just Dad and me. But we were never really a team. He didn't know what to do with a grieving daughter who coped by reading neuroscience textbooks. He wanted me to be normal. Pretty. Social. Interested in boys and shopping and things he could understand. I was smart. Obsessively so. Skipped 2 grades. Graduated high school at 16. Got a full scholarship to Johns Hopkins. Dad's response? College is fine, but don't forget you need to be marriageable. Your mother would have wanted you to find someone. I didn't know how to tell him that I didn't care about being marriageable. I cared about understanding the brain. I cared about why people forgot. I cared about my mother, who had been sharp and brilliant and had slipped away piece by piece. I got my bachelor's in 3 years, my master's in 2, and my MD/PhD in neuroscience in 6. By 27, I was Dr. Rachel Thompson with a medical degree and a doctorate. Dad asked when I was going to stop being a student and get a real job. I have a real job, Dad. I'm a medical researcher. But when are you going to work at a company? Make some real money. I'm trying to cure Alzheimer's disease. That's nice. Are you seeing anyone? I became a professor at Harvard Medical School. Started researching Alzheimer's. Published groundbreaking papers on protein aggregation and neural degeneration. At 31, I secured a $50 million grant from the NIH. At 33, I founded the Alzheimer's Research Institute. At 35, our research led to a breakthrough in early detection, published in Nature, featured on 60 Minutes, and I was named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people in health. Dad's response? That's nice. Your cousin Jessica just had her second baby. When are you going to settle down? By 40, our institute had a $620 million operating budget. We employed 200 researchers, ran clinical trials across 15 hospitals, and held patents on 3 diagnostic tools and 2 potential treatments. The Henderson Foundation became our largest donor. Charles Henderson, billionaire philanthropist, believed in our work. We had quarterly dinners. He called me for advice on medical philanthropy, introduced me to other donors. His wife, Patricia, joined our advisory board. Their son, Marcus, toured our labs regularly and started collaborating on research protocols. And apparently, their daughter, Margaret, was now engaged to my father. Dad had mentioned dating someone new 6 months ago. Successful, sophisticated, from a good family. He never mentioned her name. Never introduced us. Never thought I was important enough to include. I was just Rachel, the professor. Not Dr. Rachel Thompson, founder of a major research institute. Not the woman who might cure Alzheimer's. Just his awkward daughter who didn't know how to dress for parties. And now he'd uninvited me to the wedding because I might embarrass him. I sat in my office for a long time after that call. I looked at the photos on my wall. The awards. The diplomas. The evidence of a life spent working, achieving, saving lives. And I realized something. I was tired of being invisible. I called Charles Henderson that evening. Rachel, I was just thinking about you. Thursday's meeting is still on. Absolutely. But Charles, I need to ask you something. Anything. You sound serious. Your daughter Margaret is getting married soon? Yes. 3 weeks from Saturday. We're thrilled. Robert is a good man. Treated Margaret wonderfully during a difficult time last year. He's attentive, caring. Charles, Robert Thompson is my father. Silence. Complete silence. Then, very quietly, I'm sorry. Robert Thompson is your father. Yes. Different last names. I use my mother's maiden name professionally. And my father and I, we aren't close. I've mentioned him over the years, but never by name. I didn't think it mattered. Rachel, this is incredible. You're going to be Margaret's stepdaughter. This is wonderful news. About that, my father called today. He uninvited me to the wedding. He what? Said he couldn't risk anything going wrong. Said your family is too sophisticated. That I'm awkward with wealthy people. That I dress like I'm going to a lab. That I might embarrass him in front of the Hendersons. I heard Patricia in the background. Charles, what's wrong? You've gone pale. He put me on speaker. Patricia, Rachel's father is Robert. The Robert marrying Margaret. Patricia gasped. Then her voice changed. It became sharp. Dangerous. He did what? Said I don't know how to talk to wealthy people. That my clothes aren't right. That I make things awkward. Rachel, Charles said carefully, do you want to come to the wedding? I do now. Then you're coming. As our guest. You'll sit at our table. You'll arrive with us. Charles, I don't want to cause drama. This is your daughter's wedding. Drama? Rachel, you've changed medicine. You've saved lives. You run a $620 million research institute that we're honored to support. Your family. You've been family for 8 years. And your father thinks you're an embarrassment? No. You're coming to the wedding. And Robert is going to learn exactly who his daughter is. Patricia added, we're picking you up. You'll arrive with us. We'll make sure everyone knows who you are. This feels like revenge. This feels like justice, Charles corrected. See you Saturday. The next 2 weeks were normal. Or as normal as things could be. Research meetings, clinical trial reviews, a symposium presentation at the medical school. I didn't tell my team about the wedding drama. I just kept working. Dad called 3 times. I didn't answer. He left voicemails. Rachel, we should talk. There's been a misunderstanding. Rachel, please call me back. This is important. Rachel, I'm getting married in 10 days. We need to discuss this. Your mother would want us to work this out. I deleted all 3 without responding. The last one stung. Using my mother's memory to guilt me? That was low, even for him. Thursday came. I had my quarterly dinner with Charles and Patricia at their estate. The house was beautiful old stone, ivy on the walls, fireplaces in every room. Patricia had made my favorite dish. Marcus joined us this time, his grin wide and knowing. So Marcus said, passing the bread basket. I hear you're about to become my sister. Stepsister. Technically. This whole situation is wild. Dad told me the story. Your father really uninvited you. Word for word. Said I was awkward around wealthy people. That I didn't know what to say at fancy events. Marcus laughed. You've spoken at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Twice. I know. You've given keynote addresses to rooms full of billionaires. I know. Your father is an interesting man. That's one word for it. Patricia shook her head. I've met Robert a dozen times. He's charming. Attentive to Margaret. But he's never once mentioned having a daughter. Not once. He doesn't talk about me. Doesn't understand my work. Doesn't value it. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't host dinner parties or join social clubs. In his eyes, I didn't turn out right. That's going to change on Saturday, Charles said firmly. I'm giving a toast at the reception. I plan to talk about Margaret and Robert, about their future together. But I'm also going to talk about you. Charles. Please. You don't have to. Rachel, your family. More family than most people who share my blood. You've dedicated your life to work that honors my mother's memory. Patricia's mother. The work you do matters more than almost anything else I fund. Robert needs to understand that. He needs to see you. What if this ruins Margaret's wedding? It won't, Patricia said. Margaret knows who you are. She's been reading about your work for years. She's excited to have you in the family. She just didn't realize you were Robert's daughter until we told her yesterday. What did she say? That she wished she'd known sooner. That she would have insisted you be included from the start. And that her father uninviting you to avoid embarrassment is the most ironic thing she's ever heard. Marcus laughed again. Margaret called me last night. She said, and I quote, Robert's daughter is literally the most accomplished person who'll be at this wedding, and he's worried she'll embarrass him? The cognitive dissonance is staggering. I smiled. Really smiled. I like Margaret. She likes you too. And she's furious with Robert right now. As are all of us. Charles raised his glass. To Saturday. And to family, the kind that actually shows up. We toasted. I went home that night feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Saturday arrived. I bought a dress for the wedding. Not my usual style. Normally, I wear practical clothes, slacks, blazers, comfortable shoes. Lab appropriate. Professional. Unremarkable. I don't think about fashion. I think about protein markers and clinical trial data and the faces of families waiting for a cure. But for this, I went to a boutique Patricia recommended. A small shop in Boston, elegant and quiet. The saleswoman asked what I was looking for. I told her the truth. My father's wedding. He uninvited me because he thought I'd embarrass him in front of wealthy people. Her eyes widened. I'm going anyway. As the guest of the bride's family. Who happened to fund my medical research? She nodded slowly. I love everything about this story. Let me find you something that says I belong here. She tried on a dozen dresses. Settled on midnight blue silk. Elegant. Sophisticated. Expensive. The kind of dress that didn't shout, it simply existed, and everyone around it knew. You look stunning, the saleswoman said. Thank you. You're going to be the most interesting person there. That's the plan. Charles and Patricia picked me up at 2 o'clock. Their car was a Bentley. Driver included. A kind older man named Harold who had been with the family for 20 years. This was the life my father thought I couldn't navigate. Silk dresses and private drivers and estates in Connecticut. You look beautiful, Patricia said as I slid into the back seat. Thank you. I'm nervous. Don't be. You're going to walk in there as exactly who you are. And let the chips fall where they may. The wedding was at a historic estate in Connecticut. Manicured gardens, fountains, a long driveway lined with flowering trees. A string quartet played near the entrance. 200 guests in formal wear, mingling with champagne flutes in hand. We arrived fashionably late. Charles wanted to make an entrance. The valet's eyes widened when he saw Charles Henderson. Everyone in philanthropic circles knew his face. Everyone in medicine knew his name. We walked in together, Charles on one side of me, Patricia on the other. Like I belonged. Because I did. The wedding ceremony was outdoors. White chairs arranged in perfect rows. A floral arbor draped in white roses and greenery. The sun was warm, the sky clear. Magazine perfect. We were shown to the second row. Family seating. Charles and Patricia sat in front. Marcus sat next to me. And then I saw him. Dad was at the altar with the officiant. He looked good, gray suit, polished shoes, his hair recently cut. He was smiling. Then he saw us approaching. Saw Charles. Saw Patricia. Saw Marcus. Then saw me. His face went white. Then red. Then white again. Margaret appeared at the back of the aisle. She was stunning, a simple white dress, flowers in her hair, her face glowing. She saw her family, saw me, and smiled. Actually smiled. The ceremony was beautiful, traditional, heartfelt. Dad kept glancing at me. I kept looking straight ahead, watching Margaret, watching the light catch the flowers, watching the officiant speak about love and commitment. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," everyone applauded. Dad and Margaret walked down the aisle together, hands clasped. He tried to catch my eye as he passed. I looked away. At the reception line, Margaret hugged her parents warmly. Then she turned to me. "Dr. Thompson, I'm so glad you're here. Congratulations, Margaret. You look beautiful. Thank you for coming." I heard what happened. She glanced at Dad, who was standing a few feet away, looking uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, my husband is an idiot." Dad overheard. "Margaret. Robert, we'll discuss this later. Right now, I want to welcome your daughter properly." She hugged me. Genuinely. Warmly. Her arms were strong, her embrace real. "I've been reading about your research," she said quietly. "The early detection protocol you developed. It's remarkable. I didn't realize you were Robert's daughter until my parents told me, but I already knew your name. Everyone in my family knows your name." "Thank you. My grandmother had Alzheimer's. The last 5 years of her life were hard. If your protocol had existed then, it might have changed everything for our family. Early detection. More time. Better care. That's why I do the work. For families like yours." Dad was standing 3 feet away, looking completely lost. Margaret turned to him. "Robert, your daughter is a genius. A literal genius. She might cure Alzheimer's disease. And you didn't think she belonged at our wedding." "I didn't realize." "You didn't ask. We'll talk later." She moved on to greet other guests. Left Dad standing there frozen, his mouth half open. Charles clapped him on the shoulder. "Robert, we need to talk. But not now. Now we celebrate. Later, we discuss why you tried to exclude one of the most important people in my life from my daughter's wedding." Dad looked like he might be sick. The reception was in a massive tent on the lawn. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. A live band played jazz standards. An open bar stretched along one wall. The tables were draped in white linen, centerpieces of roses and candles. We sat at the Henderson family table. Prime location. Center of the room. Dad and Margaret sat at the sweetheart table on the raised platform, just the two of them, framed by flowers and fairy lights. I could see Dad watching me. Watching Charles. Watching the way other guests approached our table to greet the Hendersons. Senators. CEOs. University presidents. Other philanthropists. Everyone who was anyone in the Northeast elite. And they all knew Charles. They all knew Patricia. And some of them knew me. Midway through dinner, a woman approached our table. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, director of the National Institutes of Health. She was elegant in a navy gown, her silver hair swept up. "Charles, Patricia, wonderful to see you." Then she saw me. "Rachel, I didn't know you'd be here." "Elizabeth, good to see you. Your latest paper on tau protein aggregation was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. We're using it to restructure our entire Alzheimer's research funding strategy. I'm glad it was helpful." "Helpful?" "It's revolutionary." She turned to Charles. "You know you're funding the most important Alzheimer's research in the country, right?" Charles smiled proudly. "I know. Rachel keeps us updated quarterly." "She's too modest. What she's doing will change medicine." "We're talking about a potential Nobel Prize in the next decade," Elizabeth added. I felt my face heat. "Elizabeth, I'm serious. The diagnostic tools alone are worth it. But if your treatment trials work, Rachel, you'll have cured Alzheimer's. That's a Nobel. No question." Across the room, I saw Dad's head snap toward our table. He was watching, listening. Elizabeth continued, oblivious. I'm recommending the NIH increase funding to your institute by $250 million over the next 5 years. You've earned it. The work you're doing is too important to slow down. That's incredibly generous. It's strategic. You're the best investment we can make in neurodegenerative research. The entire scientific community knows it. She moved on. Left our table buzzing. Patricia squeezed my hand. Nobel Prize. It's just speculation. Rachel, stop. Let yourself be proud. I was proud. I just never had anyone to be proud with. Not until now. After dinner, the toasts began. Margaret's mother, Patricia, went first. She spoke beautifully about love, partnership, and joining families. Her voice was warm, her words genuine. People wiped away tears. Then Charles stood, tapped his glass with a fork. The room quieted. I'm Charles Henderson, father of the bride. And I want to talk about family. The room leaned in. Margaret found a good man in Robert. He's kind to her, treats her with respect, makes her laugh. I'm thrilled to welcome him to our family. Dad smiled, relaxed slightly. But tonight, Charles continued, I also want to acknowledge someone else joining our family. Someone extraordinary. Someone who's been part of our lives for 8 years, but who we're only now learning is Robert's daughter. Dad's smile froze. Dr. Rachel Thompson is one of the foremost neuroscientists in the world. She runs the Alzheimer's Research Institute, which my family foundation has funded for nearly a decade. Her work has changed how we diagnose and treat Alzheimer's disease. She's saved countless lives. And she's done it with grace, brilliance, and absolute dedication. The room was silent, all eyes turning to find me. Rachel, would you stand? I stood. Felt 200 people looking at me. Felt the weight of their attention, their curiosity, their respect. This remarkable woman, Charles continued, his voice steady, was uninvited to this wedding. Robert told her she might embarrass him in front of my family. That she didn't know how to behave around wealthy people. That she was too awkward for an event like this. Gasps. Actual gasps from the audience. Dad's face had gone gray. Margaret was staring at him, her expression unreadable. What Robert didn't know is that Rachel and I have dinner quarterly. That she's been to our home dozens of times. That my wife considers her family. That our foundation has invested over $400 million in her research. That the NIH director considers her a future Nobel laureate. He paused. Let the words settle. Rachel Thompson is not an embarrassment. She's a treasure. She's an honor to know. And Robert, you should be on your knees thanking whatever cosmic force made this brilliant, compassionate, world-changing woman your daughter. The room erupted in applause. I stood there, tears streaming down my face as 200 strangers celebrated me. Strangers who now knew my name. Who now saw me. Charles wasn't done. To Rachel. Welcome to the family. The Henderson family. Where your work is valued, your brilliance is celebrated, and you will never, ever be made to feel less than the extraordinary person you are. To Rachel, the room echoed. I sat down. Patricia grabbed my hand. Marcus hugged me. And across the room, my father sat frozen at the sweetheart table, his new wife staring at him with an expression that could freeze fire. After the toast, people approached our table in waves. Scientists who'd read my papers. Philanthropists who'd heard of my work. Medical professionals who used our diagnostic protocols. Dr. Thompson, I had no idea you were Robert's daughter. Your research changed my mother's treatment plan. Can we schedule a meeting? Our foundation wants to support your work. Would you consider speaking at our annual gala? I smiled. Thanked them. Exchanged cards. Felt seen. Dad watched from the sweetheart table. Didn't approach. Margaret did. She came to our table, dress trailing behind her, her expression soft but determined. Rachel, can we talk? Just for a moment. Of course. We walked to a quiet corner of the tent, away from the music and the chatter. The evening air was cool. Fairy lights twinkled above us. I'm so sorry, she said immediately. I had no idea Robert had uninvited you. I didn't even know he had a daughter until 3 weeks ago. He mentioned you once, said you were in education, and changed the subject. In education? That's what he said. Not that you were a renowned neuroscientist. Not that you ran a major research institute. Just in education. I assumed you were a teacher somewhere. A nice, normal, unremarkable teacher. That sounds about right. When my father told me who you were, I was horrified. I wanted to call you immediately, but Dad said he'd handle it. That you'd be here. That Robert needed to see the truth. Your father is protective. He loves you. They both do. They talk about you constantly. Rachel found a new protein marker. Rachel's clinical trial showed promising results. Rachel spoke at the World Health Summit. I knew exactly who you were before I knew you were Robert's daughter. I'm sorry this happened at your wedding. Don't be. This needed to happen. Robert needed to see who you actually are. What you've accomplished. And frankly, he needed the public accountability. He looks devastated. Good. He should be. Rachel, can I ask you something? Anything. Why did you come? After he uninvited you, you could have stayed away. Made him explain your absence. But you came anyway. I thought about it for a moment. Because I wanted to meet you. Because I wanted your family to know I valued their relationship. And because I was tired of being invisible. Margaret hugged me. Tight and long. You're not invisible anymore. You're family now. Real family. And I don't care what Robert says, you belong here. An hour later, Dad approached our table. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. Defeated. Older. The expensive suit couldn't hide the slump in his shoulders. Rachel, can we talk? I looked at Charles. He nodded. Dad and I walked outside. Found a quiet spot in the garden, away from the lights and the music. A stone bench under an old oak tree. The stars were out. Crickets sang in the grass. I'm sorry, he said immediately. His voice cracked. For which part? All of it. Uninviting you. Not knowing about your work. Not seeing you. All of it. You've had 43 years to see me, Dad. I know. I know that. And I failed. When Charles made that toast, when everyone applauded, when I saw the way people looked at you, I realized I've been living next to greatness my entire life and I never noticed. I'm not great. I'm just good at my job. Rachel, you're curing Alzheimer's disease. The NIH director said you might win a Nobel Prize. You run a $620 million institute. My new in-laws have invested hundreds of millions of dollars in your work. That's not just being good at your job. That's changing the world. And you thought I was too awkward to attend your wedding. He put his head in his hands. I was wrong. Spectacularly, humiliatingly wrong. Why did you do it? Really? I want the truth. Because you intimidated me. He looked up. His eyes were wet. You were always so smart. So focused. So sure of yourself. After your mother died, I didn't know how to connect with you. You lived in your head, in your research. I couldn't relate. I couldn't follow. So I told myself you were just an academic. Not living in the real world. Not successful in ways that mattered. That was easier than admitting you had no idea how to be the father I deserved. Yes. His voice broke. Yes, it was. And I'm so sorry. We sat in silence for a few minutes. The crickets kept singing. The stars kept shining. Can you forgive me? He finally asked. I don't know. You didn't just miss one event, Dad. You missed my entire life. My MD graduation. My PhD defense. My first major grant. The founding of my institute. The NIH medal. All of it. You were there physically sometimes, but you were never actually present. You were always waiting to change the subject, to talk about something else, to get away from me. I want to change that. I want to be better. Why? Because Charles Henderson embarrassed you? Because you realized I'm successful in ways you understand now? Or because you actually care about me? He didn't answer immediately. The silence stretched. I don't know, he finally said. Maybe all three. But Rachel, I want to try. I want to know my daughter. The real one. Not the person I invented to make myself feel better about not understanding you. That's going to take time. I have time. I'm not going anywhere. Margaret might have other ideas after tonight. He laughed weakly. I almost laughed too. She's smart. Like her new stepdaughter. We sat in silence again. Then I said, I'm willing to try. But Dad, you need to actually show up. Read my papers, even if you don't understand them. Visit my lab. Ask about my work. Don't just nod and change the subject. And I'm not going to make myself smaller to make you comfortable anymore. I'm a neuroscientist. I run a major research institute. I'm proud of my work. If that intimidates you, that's something you need to work through. I understand. Do you? Because for 43 years, you've wanted me to be someone else. Someone easier. Someone who fit your vision of what a daughter should be. I was wrong. Yes, you were. He stood, offered his hand to help me up. I took it. We walked back to the reception together. The rest of the night was a blur. More people approached me. More cards exchanged. More stories shared. By the end of the night, I had 23 business cards from potential donors. 7 from other medical researchers. 4 from pharmaceutical companies wanting to discuss partnerships. Charles found me at the bar. You okay? Overwhelmed. Good overwhelmed, I think. Dad and I talked. He apologized. We're going to try to build something real. That's all you can ask. Thank you, Charles. For the toast. For forcing this confrontation. For valuing me when my own family didn't. Rachel, you're not just valuable. You're irreplaceable. To medicine. To my family. To everyone whose life you'll save. Patricia appeared. Are you stealing my new daughter? Just claiming her, Charles said. She's ours now. We're never letting her go. They hugged me. Both of them. Held me like I was precious. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. The next morning, I woke up in my own apartment, in my own bed, and for a moment I thought it had all been a dream. Then I looked at my phone. 27 new emails. 3 from Dad. Thinking about yesterday. Still processing. Thank you for talking to me. Margaret showed me some of your published papers. I don't understand most of it, but I'm impressed. Can I visit your lab? I'd like to see where you work. I responded to the last one. Lab tours are Thursdays at 2 p.m. You're welcome to join. An email from Margaret. Thank you for making my wedding memorable for the right reasons. Sunday dinner at 6 p.m. Casual. Bring wine. And an email from Dr. Elizabeth Warren at the NIH. The buzz from Saturday night has reached D.C. Prepare for a very good news phone call on Wednesday. Sarah found me at lunch on Monday. How was the wedding? Life-changing. In what way? My father's new father-in-law made a toast about me. Told 200 people that I'd been uninvited to the wedding for being an embarrassment. Then explained exactly who I am and what I've accomplished. Sarah's eyes went wide. Oh my God. The NIH director was there. Half the medical philanthropists on the East Coast were there. Everyone now knows that Robert Thompson's daughter is the neuroscientist he tried to exclude from his wedding. That's amazing. It's terrifying, but also freeing. I don't have to hide anymore. Don't have to make myself smaller. Don't have to pretend my work doesn't matter. It always mattered, Dr. Thompson. I know. But now my family knows too. Wednesday came. The NIH called. Just as Elizabeth promised. Dr. Thompson, we're increasing your funding by $250 million over 5 years. Your work is too important. We're also nominating you for the Presidential Medal of Science. I sat down. Couldn't speak. Dr. Thompson? Are you there? I'm here. Just processing. You've earned this. Your tau protein research alone justifies it. But your diagnostic protocols, your clinical trials, your leadership in the field, you're transforming how we approach neurodegenerative disease. Thank you. No, thank you. For the work. For the dedication. For changing medicine. After the call, I sat in my office for a long time. I looked at the walls. The diplomas. The awards. The photos. And then I added a new photo to the collection. Me with Charles, Patricia, Marcus, and Margaret at the wedding. My new family. The family that saw me. Sunday dinner at the Henderson estate was casual. Jeans and sweaters. Wine and pasta. A fire in the fireplace. Dad and Margaret arrived together. He looked nervous. Rachel. Dad. Thank you for inviting me. Charles invited you. I'm just here. Fair enough. We ate. Talked carefully at first. Then Charles asked about my research. I talked. Really talked. Explained the protein aggregation process, the diagnostic markers, the treatment protocols. Dad listened. Actually listened. Asked questions that showed he was paying attention. Oh, when you say tau proteins, you mean? I explained. Used simple terms. He nodded. And this could actually prevent Alzheimer's? Potentially. If we catch it early enough. If the treatment trials work. We're years away from knowing for sure. But you're doing it. Actually doing it. We're trying. Margaret chimed in. She's too modest. The scientific community thinks she's going to cure Alzheimer's within a decade. Cure is a strong word. Dr. Warren said Nobel Prize. Patricia reminded me. Dad looked at me. Really looked. I'm sorry I missed all of this. The work. A place where I belonged. Not because I had changed, but because they finally opened their eyes. A year after the wedding, our Phase 2 clinical trials showed success. The Alzheimer's treatment worked. Not a cure, but significant slowing of progression. Quality of life improvements. Hope. Real, measurable hope. We published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Front page. Dad came to the press conference. Sat in the back. Watched me present our findings to the world. Afterward, he hugged me. Your mother would be so proud. You think? I know. She always said you were special. I just didn't understand what she meant. She said, our Rachel is going to change the world. I thought she was just being a proud mother. Turns out she was right. We stood there. Father and daughter. Finally seeing each other. I'm proud of you too, he said quietly. I know I haven't earned the right to say that. But I am. So incredibly proud. Thank you, Dad. That was enough. For now. 2 years after the wedding, I won the Lasker Award for Medical Research. The American Nobel. Dad, Margaret, Charles, Patricia, and Marcus all attended the ceremony in New York. When they announced my name, all 5 of them stood and cheered. My family, the one I was born into and the one I chose, both finally fully seeing me. 3 years after the wedding, the Nobel Committee called. I won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for my work on Alzheimer's disease. The ceremony was in Stockholm. December. Formal wear and international press. Dad was there. Front row. Crying as I accepted the medal. I'm here, he whispered as we posed for photos afterward. I'm finally here. I know, Dad. I see you now. Really see you. I see you too. And he did. Because seeing isn't just looking. It's acknowledging. Valuing. Celebrating. It took 46 years. A wedding drama. A public toast. A father-in-law who forced accountability. But finally, completely, my father saw me. Not as the daughter who didn't fit his vision, but as the woman who changed medicine. The scientist who saved lives. The person I'd always been. And that was worth everything. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you. Truly. These narratives take time to write, and knowing that people like you are listening makes every word worth it. If you want to hear more stories about family, resilience, and the moments that change everything, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Tap the like button if this moved you. Drop a comment. I'd love to know how you would have handled that wedding invitation. And as always, take care of each other. I'll see you in the next video.